issue and restream. Okay, yeah, now we're live on restream. But anyway, I'm Chris Ransom. That's Joseph Potter. Today, we're going to preview the Atlantic Division in the NHL, and we'll break down some Week 3 matchups in the NFL. We can also recap what happened with the Dolphins, with Tua a little bit later on. Next week, we'll have the quarterback rankings, and we'll have a division. So we'll have two separate streams, one for the quarterback rankings and one for the NHL division previews and the NFL predictions for Week 3, which I was currently coding. But yeah, before Joey arrived, but I'm glad Joey's here. I'm glad, and we're ready to talk some sports. I will save the 5 teams in Atlantic at the end. Instead of just going in alphabetical order, that's not fun. That's not spontaneous. So we've got 3 teams that weren't featured in the thumbnail: Montreal, Detroit, and Ottawa. I'm going to start off with Montreal since I think they are the weakest team in this division still, but they have one of an identity now. Slavkovsky, Suzuki, and Caulfield. That's a really good first line. Slavkovsky broke out 50 points from the number 1 pick in the 22 draft after only having 10 points as a rookie. Nick Suzuki had 33 goals, 44 assists, and 77 points. And Cole Caulfield had 65 points, the 2019 first-round pick for the Canadiens. And Suzuki's a team captain. He was traded from Vegas to Montreal for Max Pacioretty back in 2018. So, yeah. Montreal, they have a really good identity. They've got 3 really good young star forwards. That is the backbone of their team. They did trade Patrick Laine. They've got Kirby Dach and Alex Newhook, other veterans on that second line with Laine. The third line is Joshua Roy, Dvorak, Josh Anderson. Nice third line players, nothing special. And then Joel Arima, Jake Evans, and Brendan Gallagher on the fourth line. I mean, Montreal's got a decent forward core, and they're only going to get better as more NHL draft picks from the NHL draft arrive. I know next year we're getting Ivan Demi on this team. Their future's very bright. Defensively, Montreal has Mike Matheson, who played all 82 games, and Caden Gould, their 21st round pick on the top line. David Savard, a veteran in a contract year, and Lane Hudson, 2020 second-round pick, 2 second-line defense. Barron, a former Colorado Avalanche first-round pick who was traded to Montreal for Arturi Lehkonen, and Aber Zaja are the 2 third-line defensemen. Zaja is projected to beat out Bogan Malou and David Reinbacher for that last defenseman. I don't necessarily think it's going to go down like that, but we'll see. I think we'll probably see Malou play at Zaja as the season progresses, and we'll probably see David Reinbacher replace David Savard when Savard becomes a UFA next year. And Montreal, their blue line's slowly taking its shape. They did draft a center. I believe Michael Hage was the player they drafted with that second first-round pick. He'll replace Christian Dvorak. Canadians do have 2 first-round picks in 2025, including a first-round pick from the Florida Panthers, as well as their own. And they've got 2 goalies in Samuel Montembeault and Caden Primo. The outlook for this team is good, but until they get Jacob Fowler, until they get some of those other first-round picks like Malou and Reinbacher up, I don't see them as a playoff team yet. They're going to go as far as their star forwards take them, the trio of Slavkovsky, Suzuki, and Caulfield. They're going to go as far as those 3 teams. That's really the bottom line with Montreal. I don't think there's anything else we need to add to that, Joey, before we get into the next team. You can pick Ottawa or Detroit. Do you have a preference between those 2? If you don't, I'll just move on to Ottawa. Because I mean, Ottawa's decent. I don't think they're ready to take that leap as a playoff team, but they did go all in for Linus Ullmark this offseason, the Boston Bruins goalie. They did go all in a trade to acquire him. Brady Tkachuk, their team captain, Tim Stützle, and Drew are on the top line. Josh Norris, Drake Batherson, David Perron are on the second line. Shane Pinto, third line center. Grieg, a 2020 first round picks, the other top 9 and Michael Amadio, who they got in a trade, the third line right winger, Noah Gregor, and Zach McEwen. I don't think Ottawa's fourth line is very good, but that top nine can be formidable. Sanderson and Zub are the first line defense. Jake Sanderson, Jake Sanderson was a 2020 first round pick along with Stutzla. Yes, Ottawa had 3 first round picks in 2020, and it appears they hit on all of them. And we saw Dallas do the same thing, and it worked out wonders for them eventually. I don't know if Ottawa will have the same fate. Nick Jensen, Thomas Chabot are on the second line. Jacob Bernard Docker, 2018 first round pick drafted in the late part of the first round, and Tom Clevin, a 2020 second round pick, are the two third line defense. So Ottawa apparently hit on all four of their first 4 picks from the 2020 NHL draft, and they've got Linus Ullmark as the starting goalie from the Bruins, and Anton Forsberg is the backup. But his outlook is bright. I think they're a year away from being a playoff, but Ullmark's on a 1-year contract, so we'll see what happens with Ottawa. You think they do have potential to maybe sneak in this year? So they're an interesting team, Joey, but you want to break this down further? Why you think they could sneak in? The team that I think is going to sneak in this year in the Atlantic Division is the Detroit Red Wings. And if you saw the mock draft on screen share a few weeks ago for the NHL draft, you already know where I have teams ranked. But Alex DeBrincat, Dylan Larkin, and Lucas Raymond, it's our first line for the Red Wings. They added Vladimir Tarasenko from the Florida Panthers to pair with Patrick Laine on the second line with JT Compton at line center. Rasmussen, Andrew Kopp, who could be second or third line center, is the third line center, and Jonathan Berggren, a 2018 second round pick, are 2 third line wingers. So I like Detroit's third line just as much as I like the second line. And Tyler Mate, Christian Valeno, a 2018 first round pick from the Vegas Golden Knights players. I really like the Red Wings center depth. I think the Red Wings are going to be one of these surprise teams this year. Moritz Seider, one of the best defensemen in the league. Ben Shiro, compliment well. Jeff Petrie's on the second line, but Simon Edmondson's going to be sixth overall in the 2021 NHL draft. We haven't seen Edmondson play in the NHL yet. And Edmondson was a guy that I said was super raw, had a high ceiling, but he was super raw. Red Wings gave him 3 years to develop. Now they're bringing him up to the NHL. And I said, if Edmondson goes to a team where he gets 3 to 4 years to develop, that's where he'll be in the best opportunity to succeed. And I think I think Edmondson might surprise some people this year. The Red Wings do have Axel Sandin-Palinka in their prospect pool. And they've also got some goalies. Cam Talbot, they got him from the LA Kings, and Alex Lyon, former backup goalie on the Florida Panthers when they made the 2023 Stanley Cup Finals and lost, are the 2 backups. I have the Red Wings getting in. I know that's going to come as a surprise, Joey, but I actually have the Detroit Red Wings as one of my 2 cards this year. So I 5 teams in the Atlantic making the playoffs this year, and the Red Wings are the prize for me anyway. Those are the 3 teams that weren't featured in the thumbnail. You have anything you want to say about Montreal, Ottawa, or Detroit before I get to featured in the thumbnail? Yeah. Lightning are next. This is a team I actually have missed playoffs. Yes, they were featured in the thumbnail, but I do have the Tampa Bay Lightning missing the playoffs. Why? They lost their captain, Steve. I think that's going to have a much bigger effect on them than most realize. They did add Jake Gensel from Carolina and Pittsburgh to pair with Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov. Hagel, Sorel, Cam Atkinson, fourth line right winger on the Flyers, is now the Lightning's second line right winger. Nicholas Paul, still a very good third line center, and Connor Sheary is a nice third line left winger. Michael Isamont complements those two. Zemgus Girgensons, former Buffalo Sabres fourth line winger, is now the fourth line left winger, complementing Luke Glendening, Mitchell Chaffee. Lightning also lost Sergachev, Mikhail Sergachev, longtime defensive partner of Victor Hedman. Hedman's going to be playing with Darren Radish, Eric Cernak, and McDonough, who were line mates on the Lightning Stanley Cup run. Reunited. The Lightning traded for McDonough from the Nashville Predators. Stamkos. And Nick Perbix and J.J. Moser are the two third-line defensemen. And Vasilevsky, still one of the best goalies in the league. I have this just on the outside looking in. We don't know who the new captain's going to be. Stamkos. And right now, it sounds like Victor Hedman will be the captain of the Lightning, but, you know, it's going to be Hedman or Kucherov. Let's not sugarcoat it. Victor Hedman, he was a 2009 first-round pick. Stamkos was a 2008 first-round pick. It's going to be either Hedman or Kucherov. I don't think it's going to be anybody else. The question is, who is it going to be, and what type of impact are they going to have in the post-Stamkos era? That's really the big question. And I still think the Lightning have too much talent to finish in the bottom 10, but I do see a setback here without Stamkos where they actually missed the play first time in a while. And I could be wrong on that. If Gensel picks up where Stamkos left off because he's younger than Stamkos, Tampa Bay could very easily pick up right where they left off. They could very easily end up proving me wrong. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Lightning. But for now, I have got the Lightning on the outside looking in. I mean, they're in a unique situation, Joey. This was a team that had so much success for a few years, but the last 2 years they make the playoffs, they lose in the first round, and now they have to replace their captain, which is not going to be an easy task. Even though Victor Hedman and Kucherov are both stars, with Stamkos signing the deal with Nashville, I don't think they're the same team. I think they're going to take a step back, and I have them barely missing the playoffs. So we'll see what happens there. And the next, we got 4 teams left: Boston, Buffalo, Toronto, and Florida. I'm going to save Boston, Toronto, and Florida for the end. We're going to get Buffalo out of the way now. It's not that I don't think Florida can repeat. It's just I know Joey has the most to say about the Florida Panthers. If he says anything hockey related today, it's probably going to be about the Florida Panthers. I know that for a fact. And Buffalo, even this was a team we hyped up last year. They disappointed. I do think they can get in, but they're either going to be a wild card or they're going to be the 3rd seed in their division. I just think there's too much talent in the Atlantic right now. The Buffalo, Tage Thompson, he didn't take after taking a leap in 2023, he really didn't build on that. John, 22nd round pick, became the first line left winger. You got Alex Tuck. You've got Jason Penguins is your second line left winger. Jack Quinn is your second line right winger. Quinn is looking like a young emerging star. Dylan Cousins is your 2019 first round pick. Quinn, your 2020 first round pick. Zach Benson, a 2023 first round picks on the third line with Ryan McLeod and Jordan Greenway, who's in a contract year. And then the fourth line, I think the fourth line of Beck Malliston, Sam Lafferty, and Nicholas Aube-Kubel might be worse than last year's fourth line, but we'll see what happens with the Sabres. I mean, they do have 9 really good skaters on the top 9. Bowen Byram and Rasmus Dahlin are on the first line. Henry Jokiharju and Owen Power on the second line. Matthias Samuelsson and Connor Clifton are on the third line for the Buffalo Sabres. But the goalie tandem is going to be key here. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, a 2017 second-round pick, and Devin Levi, a 2020 7th-round pick, are the 2 goalies. Levi looked like he might be the starter after a strong finish in 22-23. Pekka Luukkonen ended up taking the job from him past season, and now he's the long-term starter. So I do think Buffalo has enough talent to squeak in, be a wild card or a 3 seed in this division if they're lucky. But even if they make the playoffs, there's going to be growing pains. And I just think the top 3 in this Florida, Toronto, Boston are more experienced. I did actually put Buffalo ahead of Florida. I have Florida as my wild card 2, Detroit is my wild card 1, and Buffalo is my number 3 team in the Atlantic. So, yeah. So I probably should save Florida for last, but I'm going to break down Florida now. I'm going to break down why I think they're going to regress, because I know if Joey says anything hockey related today, he's mainly going to talk about football today, but if he says anything hockey related on this podcast, it's going to be about the Florida Panthers. I just know that by intuition. It's just one of those things you just know by intuition. And I think Florida, we could see both. The ACC Championship and the MLS Cup are both on December 7th. So we could both see the Miami Hurricanes and the Inter Miami MLS team follow in the Florida Panthers' footsteps as far as championship winning teams go. Verhaeghe, Barkov, and Reinhart are back on the top line. Sam Bennett, Evan Rodriguez, and Matthew Tkachuk are back on the second line. Anton Lundell is back as the third line center. Maki Samskovich, E2 Lewis Sterren are the third line wingers. Jesper Bachvist, Thomas Nozick, and Mackenzie Entwistle are the fourth line forwards. I think the fourth line is weaker than last year. Ekblad and Forsling are still the first line defensemen. Nico Mikola was the number 4 defenseman last year. He's now the number 3 defenseman, with Dmitry Kulikov, who was the number 5 defenseman, now on the second line. And Adam Bachvist, a former top 10 pick in the 2018 NHL draft, and Nate Schmidt, who had some good years in Winnipeg and Vegas, are now the 2 third-line defensemen on this Florida Panthers team. And really, with Florida, they still have a bulk of their core players back, but how Bachvist and Schmidt do is really going to determine whether this team reads or not. Because on paper, I think this team is weaker than Vegas's team that lost to Dallas in the first round in 7 games last year. They do return all their stars, but when Lightning repeated, Joey, they had all 12 forwards, all 6 defensemen, and both goalies back under contract. They didn't have any free agents. That's the key, I think. I think Barclay Gaudreau, but that was it, and they still repeated. That's the thing. The Lightning Penguins didn't lose a bulk of their cores. I feel like the Panthers, like Vegas last year, they lost too much to repeat, but I'll give them credit for capitalizing during their Stanley Cup window. But I think they get to the first round of the playoffs and they lose to either Toronto or Boston, who are my top 2 teams in this division. Do you think the Florida Panthers can repeat, Joey? Because there are some people that think they can, in fact, run it back next year. I don't think Joey's muted. I just think he's letting me do my thing and talk about hockey, and then he's saving his energy for the football segments of the show. I could be wrong on that, though. I'll break down the Bruins next because I have Toronto as my team to beat in the East this year, so I'll save Toronto for last. Elias Lindholm replaced Elias Lindholm's now the first line center. Zaka and Pasternak complement him. Charlie Coyle did well on the first line last year. He's going to be playing with Morgan Geekie and Brad Marchand on the second line. Matthew Poitras, John Beecher. I do like the center depth and the third and fourth line. Poitras came into his own last year, and John Beecher, a 2019 first-round pick, drafted 30th overall. And you look at Charlie McAvoy, Nikita Zadorov, Hampus Lindholm, Carlo, Andrew Peak, and Mason Lowray, a 2020 second-round pick. I think the Bruins have fantastic depth on the blue line. Their depth at center and defenseman is one thing that keeps them competitive, and Jeremy Swayman's one of the top goalies in the league. So I think they're going to be fine. They're still going to be a playoff team. I would not be surprised if they won the division again and they ended up getting the second round, but they end up losing. Because I think both Florida and Toronto have the pieces to knock out Boston. If Boston can draw a Buffalo or a Detroit, I think that's how they get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Because I think both the Florida Panthers, I'm not saying Boston can't beat the Florida Panthers. I actually have them beating Florida this year in the first round. But until they actually show it, they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. That's just how it is. That's how it was with the Celtics in the NBA last year. Until they actually showed they could win it all, they did not get the benefit of the doubt with Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Now the Celtics do get the benefit of the doubt. Now the Bruins have to show they can at least win it. If they can beat Florida and they lose in the second round of Toronto, that will be considered a letdown. But I just think that's kind of where Boston's at right now. Even though I like this team on paper, I don't think they have enough pieces to get the Eastern Conference Final. And if they run into Florida or Toronto in the second round, I think that team will knock out Boston. There's just not enough there to excite me. And the final team, the team that I have winning the Eastern Conference, yes, is the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know I'm going to get roasted so hard for this take when it doesn't happen and the Leafs lose in the first round again, but, Matthew Nyes, Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews is a very good first line. Matthews is going to be taking the captaincy from John Tavares. William Nylander and Bobby McMahon are on the second line. Max Domi, Pontus Holmberg, Kali Yarncroc, third line. And David Kampf, Ryan Reeves, Connor Dubois, some physicality on the fourth line. The big free agency move was acquiring Chris Tanev from the Dallas Stars, and they have Morgan Riley. Morgan Riley's always been a good first-line defenseman, but he's never had that high-end defenseman to complement him. Getting Tanev from Dallas was a good move. You get Oliver Ekman-Larsson to pair with Timothy Liljegren, your 2017 first-round pick. I think this is Toronto's best top four in a while. I think you have to go back to the 90s when Toronto had Matt Sundin to find a top four on the Toronto Maple Leafs this formidable. Jake McCabe and Simon Bonneau are the two third-line defensemen. At goalie, you have Joseph Woll, a 2016 third-round pick, and Anthony Stolarz. Stolarz was the backup goalie in the Florida Panthers during their Stanley Cup run this season. So I think Toronto, and they hired Craig Berube as head coach from the 2019 Stanley Cup. I think that was a fantastic hire. I think Berube is going to turn this thing around. And I have Toronto winning the Eastern Conference. As bold as that sounds, I don't think they win the cup. I think it's basically Dallas and Edmonton are the two teams to beat in the West once again. I'm leaning Edmonton right now. The fan in me is hoping Dallas pulls it off this year, but I'm leaning Edmonton right now. And next week I'll break down the Metropolitan Division after we do the quarterback rankings. I'll break down the Central Division 2 weeks from today after the running back rankings and after the running back and fullback rankings if I get to fullbacks. And then I'll break down the Pacific Division 3 weeks from today. But that will do it for the hockey segment of the show. But yeah, I got through every team in under 30 minutes. That's actually pretty impressive considering my passion for hockey. It's like my number 2 sport behind the NFL. But yeah, anything stand out to you before we get to news on Tua Tagovailoa and some NFL games for week 2? Oh, snap. Okay, my microphone was muted, Joey. So, as I was saying, I was ranking the teams on Restream. Nobody could hear anything I was saying on TalkShoe. So, let me recap my top 8. Montreal, I have at 8. I have Ottawa at 7. I have the Tampa Bay Lightning at 6, just missing the playoffs. I have the Florida Panthers finishing 5th in this division as my wild card 2. The Buffalo Sabres are my wild card 1. No, the Red Wings are my wild card 1. The Sabres are my number 3 team in the Atlantic. I have Toronto at 2, Boston at 1 for the regular season, but I have Toronto beating Buffalo and Boston to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And I have Toronto beating the team that I have winning the Metro next week. But yeah, was there anything you wanted to say? Because I don't think Florida's going to repeat. They lost too many defensemen in free agency, I think. But we'll see. I'm not saying they can't repeat, but on paper, they look weaker than Vegas did last year, and Vegas only lost 2 wingers. They had everybody else back, and they lost to Dallas. But I think it's just one of those unfortunate situations where if Vegas had drawn the wild card 1, maybe they're playing in the Western Conference Finals at Dallas instead of Edmonton. It's just one of those things we'll never know. But, you know, your audio's kind of choppy, Joey. It's all right. I mean, at least you didn't screw up as bad as I did. I didn't even realize I muted myself on TalkShoe. And then I just saw the text message. I'm like, really? Am I muted? And then I checked and I was like, wow. Yeah. So I didn't even realize that. I already showed the visuals for each NHL team on Restream. So I'm not going to go into breakdowns again. If you want the in depth breakdowns, you can watch the YouTube video on Restream because time is of the essence and we got other stuff we got to break down. But I love Toronto this year with Berube. They hired him from the Blues. I think he's going to be a difference maker. If the Bruins had better center depth, I'd pick them. I love their goaltending and defense, and their center depth isn't bad. Charlie Coyle and Elias Lindholm really don't move the needle for me as superstars. I think Lindholm can be a star, but we'll see what happens with him in Boston. It was hard to figure out what you were saying. The audio on your end still kind of choppy. They've got one more year to make a serious push before Bobrovsky gets up to that 36, 37 territory. They're going to have to pay Ekblad next offseason. They've got one more year to try to win another one. I don't think they three-peat, but they do have one more year to try to win a second one. And maybe they'll get it, maybe they won't. I don't think they will, but we'll see. I could be overreacting here. I mean, maybe my standards are too high because when the Bruins, when the Penguins and Lightning repeated, they didn't really lose anybody to free agency. So I hold Vegas and Florida the same standard, even though I probably shouldn't. But even if Florida survives the gauntlet in the Atlantic Division, I think the Rangers would push them to a seventh game. I think you could say the same about the Islanders, even the Devils. Um, I feel like both Dallas and Edmonton would beat Florida in the Cup this year if Florida made it back. But we'll get into that conversation in a few weeks. We do have some NFL news to get to. Um, got a lot of exciting games. I know you and Orrin are both 1-0 to start week number 2. And, it's going to be an exciting week. And apparently they're showing, what is this thing they're showing on ESPN on College Game Day? That it's the Boston Dynamics robot. It's like a robot. Eli Drinkowitz, the Missouri head coach, they're showing like a robot trying to hike the football or do something in warmups. It just it looks really silly. I get it, the technology and stuff, but it looks really, really silly. Yep. Yeah, I mean, yeah. As far as the Bills Dolphins game, this was an ugly game to watch on Amazon Prime. Buffalo just dominated on all cylinders. And to be fair, most of our staff picked Miami. You and Oren took the Bills, but you both needed the Bills to win because week 1, Matt Bowen went 15-1. The ESPN panelist who finished second to Wes and I in 2020, 21, and 21-22. He went 15-1 in week 1. Gary Bantle and Kerm both went 14-2. And since Kerm originally picked the Giants before switching to the Vikings on Yahoo, I am going to give Gary the tiebreaker for now. But it's still very early in the season. I mean, I think last year we had I think the top 3 last year at the end of the year was Lisa, Emmy, Bantle, and Sue. I don't remember if Emmy or Sue finished second to Lisa, but I know that those were the top 3 on the year. And it's still very early. Kerm's tied for second right now, and we have Jason and Wes tied for ninth. And everybody, I'm like 15th, and I went 11-5. Tracy and I went 11th and 5, and I'm like 17th actually, because so many people went 12-4. Like there were 8 people that went 12-4 in the 9 through 16 slots. That should tell you how competitive at the top it is this year, because usually 12-4 or 11-5 gets you the number 1 record after week 1 in the country. But this year, the number 1 record after week 1 is 15-1. So I'm playing catch up. Joey's playing catch up. You might see more upsets than usual for shock value. Just, I thought you took the Lions this week. Didn't you mean the Broncos? I thought you took the Broncos over the. I'm gonna double check your text. Hold on. Let me let me let me read your text from Thursday. I'm pulling it up here to double check. Dang, 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 dang. Um, I'm just trying to think here. Okay, this you're right. You're right. You're right. It's Buccaneers. You're right. You're right. You did pick the Buccaneers. I apologize. Let me correct that. Tracy is the Buccaneers winning too. I thought there were 7-8-1 games. There were 8 games where one person took the underdog and the rest took the favorites. There were a record 8 games this week. Now that is only 7, but still, that's my fault for not recognizing that you took the Buccaneers. That's on me. That's on me. All right. I've got the Raiders blowing out. I've got the Ravens blowing out the Raiders. I think this is going to be one of the more one-sided contests. But it is the first game on the slate for week it's the very first game on the slate for week 2. Ravens Derrick Henry. Yeah, you said Travis Henry, but to be fair, Derrick Henry did look like Travis Henry in the opener. You expect more from Derrick Henry. And that's why I really didn't fault Joey for saying Travis Henry, because Derrick Henry did kind of look like Travis Henry in that game. That's I I still have the Ravens winning the Super Bowl. And to be fair, I think they're probably going to be the seed now. I think it's probably going to be Chiefs 1 seed, Bills 2 since 3 seed, Ravens 4 seed, and we'll probably end up getting a Ravens Bills AFC title, which would be fun because it'd be something new. Because that means Lamar Allen would get to be in a Super Bowl. But it's going to be an uphill battle for the Ravens all year. And it's going to get to the point where people write them off entirely. Like, they're going to be 4-4 after week 8. It's going to get to the tipping point where the casual fans, where Joey and other casual NFL fans just write them off entirely and dismiss them as a contender before they peak in the second half. Um, I'm not ready to write off the Ravens yet. I think they have Henry and Justice Hill. Now, Keaton Hill and Rasheen Ali are injured at running back right now. I thought the Ravens defense for the Matabuke, Pierce, Broderick Washington, I thought they did a nice job. Trenton Simpson made some good plays. I like Zach Orr as the defensive coordinator. I think you underestimated how good this defense was. Heck, I'll even admit I underestimated our Darius Washington at nickel corner. I didn't think he could do what he did. And Williams, these guys, they're not losing to Gardner Minshew too. Gardner Minshew, Oren and Tony Mario have both said that Gardner Minshew is mediocre and has no business starting. Part of you wants to see the Ravens lose because they played sloppy. The other part of you, as a fan, wants to see Gardner Minshew prove his critics wrong and succeed. So it is kind of a conflicting feeling, but The Raiders gave up 100 rushing yards to J.K. Dobbins. So, it's true. I've got the Ravens winning 34 to 10. The over-under is 44.5. The Ravens are favored to win by 8. So, and I'm looking at this, the PFF go they did only lose by 6 points. They only lost by 6 points. The Ravens, they kept that game relatively close. If they had lost by double digits, I think you'd have a point, but they only lost by single digits. And a lot more stock into college tape than NFL tape. Since Gardner Minshew wasn't in my top 10 quarterback rankings for the 2019 NFL draft, I just sort of dismissed what he could do. That's why I've always been lower on Minshew than the consensus. And Carson's one of these guys where I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because I love the college tape. And Carson played his ass off against the Browns. I mean, their defense was good. The Cowboys linebacker play of Demarion Overshown and Eric Kendricks really stood out in this game. I would get a Kendricks photo. The Dallas Cowboys are gonna be one of the better teams in the NFC. I have them as my 5 seed. I have them 12-5. They're my number 1 wild card. I have them beating the NFC South winner in the playoffs. Um, yeah, but looking at this, Cooper Beebe was real player who stood out. I mean, the rookies Dallas had stood out. Cooper Beebe stood out. Guyton, their 2024 first round pick stood out. Players who stood out in a good way. But Fua was the number 1 rookie left tackle. According to Pro Football Focus, Guyton was number 1 rookie left tackle. Guyton was number 2 rookie tackle. Fuaga of the Saints was number 1. Fuaga of the Saints was number 1 rookie left tackle. Guyton was number 2. And those were the only guys with an 80 grade or higher on PFF in week 1 as rookies. Joe Alt had a 79 despite finishing third. Cooper Beebe didn't give up a hurry all game. Cooper Beebe was our top guard. Yeah. Yeah, Guyton and Beebe both look like studs on the offensive line. Guyton and Beebe both look like studs. I mean, Guyton had zero quarterback hurries all game, 0 pressures allowed, 0 sacks allowed. Cooper Beebe, not Guyton. Cooper Beebe at center, 0 pressures. Well, that's not what Pro Football Focus said. 34 snaps, 0 pressures allowed. 30, 34 snaps, 0 pressures allowed. That's what the stats say. That the analytics say effect. The analytics say Same with BB. I mean, Guyton and BB both look like Guyton and BB both look yeah. So you got a good left tackle and center and a rookie that's huge for Dak. I have them winning 2015. This is not a lock. Oren took Saints. Everyone else has the Cowboys. Oren, Oren took the Saints. We use yeah, Oren took the Saints. I've got Dallas winning 24-16, but Oren took the Saints to win outright. Saints defense is better than advertised, Joey. That's why I think they can hold Dallas to 24. But I think part of it is the Browns, the Cowboys offense made a Saints defense, so you expect them to continue that. And if they don't, it's a letdown for you. Yep. Yep. I don't think Dallas wins it this year, but a lot of people are saying it's going to be Lamar's year with Kendrick Lamar performing at halftime. Lamar going to New Orleans, General Jackson going Andrew Jackson, the march to New Orleans. A lot of people are saying, here's the thing: Dak Prescott's from Louisiana. If it's not the Ravens, it's probably going to be the Cowboys. If it's not the Ravens, it might be the Cowboys. That's great. Yep. Um, Chargers, Panthers, I know it's a very exciting game, but the Chargers are going to win this one. Lad McConkey got his first touchdown. This offensive tackle tandem of Slater and Alt looks good. Will Disley and Hayden, Bosa and Mac both healthy. They both look good. the Panthers, right now, the Panthers are in trouble defensively. Derek Brown suffered a season-ending injury. Derek Brown, the 34 defensive end on the Panthers, defensive tackle early in his career, got extended this offseason, 2020 first-round pick Derek Brown. He suffered a season-ending knee injury. He's out for the year. So, yeah, that's not good news for the Panthers. Their run defense is going to be anemic all year without him in the lineup. And J.C. Horn came out and said earlier this week he's pretty sure contract runs out. I would not be surprised if the Carolina traded C. Horn to a contender at the deadline, because if he's already came out and said that, then there's no point in keeping him around. You may as well move him at the deadline and try to get something back. I know the return's not going to be great, C. Horn. You're probably only going to get a third, fourth round pick for a player you draft in the top 10. That's not good value. I agree. But Carolina, Horn basically said he's not going to be back with Carolina once his contract runs out. I don't know if he got a fifth-year tender or not. I think he did. But the fact that he said that, I should say something. And Carolina's run defense was anemic against New Orleans. So, yeah, and I think Bryce not ready to give up. I agree. They may end up moving on after this year. I mean, he put himself on the hot seat with his week 1 performance. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think there's a QB in the 2025 NFL draft with Bryce Young's upside. I think if they want to get a QB with Young's upside, they've got to wait until 2026. Nico Leva, Tennessee quarterback, or Dylan Raiola in 2027. I think one of those could replace Bryce Young down the road. But if you draft another quarterback with a lower ceiling than Bryce Young, maybe he's decent, but he's not going to be as good as Bryce Young, and he's not going to have the weapons. You're just going to be you're going to be putting a round hole. That's a smart way to build a team from the ground up, and that's kind of the reason why Chargers win. I'm going 28-13 Chargers. Chargers were one of the locks on Draft Utopia this week. And the Buccaneers, Lions. Tracy and Joe took the Buccaneers. I took the Lions. Buccaneers did look good without Dave Canales. I will admit, the offense looked damn good, but without Logan Hall, without Kalijah Cansey at 34 defensive end, the Lions' interior offensive line is going to be able to provide a clean pocket for Goff. They're going to the ball as well, and I think that's the difference in him. Gibbs and Montgomery can both be that guy. DJ Reader is injury. DJ, he's going to be back in week 2 next to Aleem McNeil. I think Detroit is going to win this game. I've got Detroit winning by 15. Carlton Davis and Terrion Arnold did get injured in week 1. Arnold came back Davis didn't, but Davis looks like he's going to be cleared to play. I think this game is going to be high scoring, though. I'm going to go 38-23 Lions. I've got the Lions winning by 15 points. Tracy and Joey did take the Buccaneers. And if Detroit's corners and Baker's in the zone, Tampa Bay can certainly steal this game. But I think Detroit's either going to lose this game or to Arizona. I think Detroit's going to start 2-1. I don't think they're going to start 3-0. I think they're going to slip up against either Tampa or up against Arizona next week. I'm going to say they slip up in Arizona for shock value. And they're going to agree because if Dome has a numeric code of 21, that means the NFC champion is going to start 2-1. And the Lions are my NFC champion as well as Joey's. So they're either going to slip up against Tampa or they're going to slip up against Arizona next week. I don't think they slip up against much on the line. I like the Lions in this one. I mean, the Buccaneers look Millen, Godwin, Evans, they all got touchdowns, but the Commanders do not have a good secondary. I think that's a big thing you got to take into account here. It's easy to be a prisoner of the moment. It's easy to fall in love with your favorite players, Joey, but Commanders and Baker was able to exploit that. The same 60. You want to break down why you've got the Buccaneers before we get to the Colts and Packers? Because this is the game of the week. This is the game we put the cover photo for on Draft Utopia. Lions Buccaneers is easily the most game this week. I think there's a close second. This is the game for me. I have Buccaneers Eagles right now. Buccaneers Lions. Yep. And that's one thing you got to look at here. Confidence definitely helps. Goff did throw a pick against the Rams, but I think the Buccaneers. The other reason I like the Lions is Antoine Winfield's out. Antoine Winfield Jr. is the star of this Tampa Bay secondary. So with him out of the lineup, I think the Lions are going to have a lot easier of a time attacking Tampa Bay's defense. Antoine Winfield Jr., he's Tampa Bay's best defensive player. He's out for this week. I think this is going to be a shootout. I put more stock into depth charts than momentum. Stock into depth charts and momentum. And sometimes that works. Like it backfired in the NHL playoffs. It worked during the regular season last year, but we'll see what happens. Can steal this game. He's banking on with this game. You're to outplay Goff despite the defense, despite the fact that 5 techniques and talk shoe. So What's going on here? I didn't even push the mute button. I just heard the mute button, and then I get muted, and I have to unmute myself. But anyway, Colts Packers. I've got the Colts winning. I did. Jordan Love might play this game, but he might. Jordan Love said he might play this game if he can. He might play through a torn MCL, which is crazy, but it shows the mental toughness he has. Really have to admire that. But yeah, Julius Brent's Colts number one corner is out for the year. So I look at this game, I look at this matchup. I like the Colts to win without Jordan Love. I'm going 20-13. Even if Jordan Love plays, he won't be 100%. I like the Colts over the Packers 20-13. This is not a lock though. Kerm and West both took the Packers. Kerm and West both took the Packers. And if Jordan Love plays, the Packers could easily steal this. I just think if it's Malik Willis, I think the Colts are going to do more to win this game, even though it will end up being a very sloppy game. Okay. I mean, next up, the Colts have a lot of talent. I still think the Colts can go 9-8. I don't think they're a playoff team. I think on the table still if they beat the Packers. If they lose to Green Bay and drop to 0-2, they're probably 8-9 because Julian Blackmon's injured. Juju Brents is out for the year. Indy basically tried to address their front seven and neglected the secondary in free agency in the draft. And neglecting the secondary is going to be what ends up costing the Colts this year. That's probably what's going to be ended up costing the Colts a playoff spot with Brent's out for the year. Because they don't have a good corner next to Brent's. I mean, they do have Dallas Flowers, who's had his moments, not consistent. Jalen Jones isn't great. I like Kenny Moore as a nickel, but he's limited to that nickel role. So, I mean, but yeah, most of our Browns, Jaguars, I've got the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence, he has more to prove than Deshaun Watson, in my honest opinion. And for all of these people saying, oh, Deshaun Watson needs to be replaced, you sound like Michael Wilbon when the Jazz got eliminated from the playoffs. And Wilbon said, trade Donovan Mitchell and blow up the damn team. That's what you sound like if you're saying to get rid of Deshaun Watson after 1 week. Now, if Deshaun Watson loses this game and he loses to Daniel Jones in Cleveland, we can have a conversation about that. I think it's a little too early, but what Twitter was saying because the Browns offense was so horrible, people didn't want to blame the backup offensive lineman. They wanted to blame Deshaun Watson. But I also think it's kind of lazy, too, to just blame him. The entire team played bad offensively. And Trayvon Walker had 2 sacks against the Trayvon Walker had 2 sacks against the Dolphins. And if you don't fumble, it's that simple. If Travis Etienne doesn't fumble the ball, the Jaguars win against Miami. But Tyson Campbell got injured in this game. Tyson Campbell's going to be out for a few weeks. Still in shambles. Dub is still out. There's a lot of reasons why I don't trust the Browns right now. And I think the Browns have a good. I think their run defense is going to be suspect. I said the Browns could have a top 5 pass defense, but a bottom 5 run defense. And I think the Browns are. I've got the Jaguars beating the Browns 24-21 by a field goal. to tomorrow. I mean, be able to running game. This is really going to come down to Deshaun Watson's going to play better than he did in week 1, but I also think the Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne are going to win. I'm not breaking up a lot. I think it's an audio issue on your end because I'm not, and I'm basically saying the Jaguars. It's not me. I can see I am not muted. People can see my voice. They can see me through Wi-Fi. It's but anyway, Tyson Campbell injury is going to help the Browns score more offensively. And game here, the over 4.5. I won because of the Tyson Campbell injury. I think they're going to score more points. They're going to score a lot of points too. I've got the Jacksonville 21 Jacksonville Jaguars defeat the Cleveland, and it is the Jaguars who will defeat the Browns. Yeah, so I've got the Jaguars defeating the Browns 24-21. You're going to this game tomorrow. What do you expect for the Browns Jaguars game? Because I think it's going to be a 3-point game. I don't know if it's the earbud. I don't know what the issue is because I can see my voice. I can voice. But yeah, I've got the Jaguars beating the Browns. I think Josh Hines, Allen, Trayvon Walker are going to get pressure on the Browns like the Cowboys edge rusher tandem did in week 1. And that's going to limit Deshaun's time in the pocket. But I think Deshaun's going to make better reads as well, despite having less time in the pocket because Tyson Campbell's out. And with Tyson Campbell out of the lineup, that's a massive loss for the Jaguars. You take Tyson Campbell out of the Jaguars secondary, Jacksonville is a bottom 5 secondary without line. Yes, perfect. But like I was without Tyson Campbell, the Jaguars are a bottom second. I mean, that's the one reason why the Browns have a chance to steal Jaguars. I think. Well, Javon Holland made an incredible strip in the Miami game. Javon Holland just timed that perfectly and swatted the ball out of his hands. I don't know if or Thornhill makes a play like that. But I think the Jaguars edge rusher tandem of Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker can get pressure on Watson like the Cowboys did. But I also think without Tyson Campbell, Watson's going to have more better reads, and that's going to lead to points for the Browns. running back, both. I think the running game for Jacksonville is going to be the difference. But Joey and West, the rest of our staff has Jack, Warren, Jason. And yeah, Jason last night said the Browns got ripped off in the Deshaun Watson trade. They should have stuck with Baker Mayfield, and he's ripping the Browns. And it's just, he's ripping the Browns. I thought it was pretty hilarious. He's ripping the Browns. He's saying the Browns don't deserve to win a Super Bowl after trading for Deshaun Watson. And it's like both the Browns and Bengals are snake bitten in the sense where you just need to be happy if one of the Ohio teams wins it all. I mean, both teams have been snake bitten for so many years. ETN did ETN. I don't think that fumble was ETN's fault. I think Javon Holland just made an incredible play and swatted the ball out of his hand. But he's going to get blamed for it regardless. ETN's going to get blamed for it regardless. I think it's going to be a 24-21 game where the Yep, that's a good point. Weather definitely is a factor in certain games. The 49ers play the Vikings in Minnesota. Um, Christian McCaffrey's out in week 2. I their backup running, their third string running back, Jordan Mason, the backup to Elijah Mitchell, third string running back, came in, did his thing against the Jets. I don't think you can write off the 49ers after Monday night's game. I was originally going to pick the Vikings in an upset, but I mean, the only way the Vikings win this game is if Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill play out of their minds like they did in week 1 against Thibodeau and Brian Burns. If they play out of their minds against Bosa and Leonard Floyd, that's the only way the Vikings can steal this. Jordan Addison's out this week. They don't have Hawkinson. I think the injuries on offense really do limit the Vikings. Van Ginkel and Greenard are going to have to step up at edge rusher. I have the Niners winning by 8, 28-20. Over under is 26. Niners are a lock on the site. I mean, that's not a very exciting game. The Seahawks, they're not going to have Seahawks are going to be starting Zach at running back this week. Zach Charbonnet is going to be the starting running back for Seattle with Kenneth Walker Jr. ruled out this week. Yeah, Zach Charbonnet is going to get the start with Kenneth Walker, the third, ruled out. And George Fant and Abraham Lucas are injured at right tackle. So both of Seattle's right tackles are injured, and their starting running back, Kenneth Walker, is injured. I did pick up Charbonnet in fantasy, but I also am taking the Patriots in an upset. I basically said back in May, if the Patriots win a game with Jacoby Brissett, it'll be against Seattle. And I'll give our graphic designer Swipa credit, because Swipa had the Patriots beating the Bengals. He was literally the only person in the country that had the beating the Bengals. I thought it was crazy. He got that one right. I'll give him his props. I think he was the only person in the country that correctly predicted that game. Because I don't think anyone else besides Swipa had the Patriots beating the Bengals. Kansas City played their starters in the first half against Chicago. So I mean, the passing yards average for week one was 185 passing yards, the lowest since 1991, the year I was born in. That was the average number of passing yards. Yes, Joey, 185 passing yards. 185. It was a very sloppy week one for a lot of teams. Let's not kid ourselves. A lot of teams looked pretty sloppy in week one. I've got the Patriots winning by a point, 17-16. The rest of the staff has the Seahawks winning. So this is my upset of the week. But there's a lot of games this week where it's 6-1. One person's taking the upset. The rest is going with the consent. I think the two games where we had that were the the Ravens the Raiders game and the Saints Cowboys and then Patriots game. So those are the three games where we had that. Jets take on the Titans. We both have the Jets defeating the Titans. This is not a lock on Draft Utopia, though. Tracy Porter's taking the Titans because, historically speaking, the Titans are better at home than their opponents. Titans do play better at home under Will Levis, and he's not wrong on that. Here, the Titans did better at home under Will Levis. Rashad Weaver's filling in for Arden Key, who's suspended. I like the Jets in this one. I think the Jets blow out the Titans 31-10 and win by 3 touchdowns in Tennessee. So, I have the Titans getting, and that game against the Bears was brutal. I was watching that on I was watching that. That game was a brutal game to watch. The Bears Titans game. Will Levis, the picks he threw, the turnovers he had. That was a brutal game to watch, Joey. Did you take a look at the end of the Titans Bears game on NFL Plus? That was a game to watch. Just the ending of that game. Will Levis. Most quarterbacks would get benched for making the throw Will Levis made. Yeah, I think the Titans could end up replacing Will Levis at the end of the year. It just depends. Yes, next up it is the Giants and the Commanders. Um I've got the Commanders winning this one. Oren took the Giants in a shock value upset. So this game's not a lock, Joey. Oren took the Commanders in a shock value pick. Um Uh, the Giants came in at number 32 on Tony Mario's power rankings. Tony Mario writes, the website name DanielJonesSucks.com is available. Claiming the legal rights to that domain name would be a smarter move than drafting Daniel Jones in fantasy football. That's basically the hypnosis for the Giants in our power rankings this week. Claiming the domain Dan. I had I mean, Kay Adams broke up with Daniel Jones after the game. That's one of the rumors I heard, that Kay Adams dumped Daniel Jones after the game. That's how bad of a performance it was. She literally dumped him after the game. Yeah, the GM for the Giants basically admitted Saquon was the best player on the offense, but made no attempt to bring him back after re-signing Andrew Thomas. So that no attempt to trade him for draft capital either. The one player on the Giants that did impress me was Tyler Nubin. Tyler Nubin came in off the bench and had 7 tackles in the second half. He's going to be starting at strong safety moving forward. So, Bryce Young, I think he could be approaching it. I mean, I don't know if he's Oh, I'm gonna give a comment on this. I do think it's crazy though that Daniel gets he peaked in year 4 and he peaked in year this year. The Giants out to be looking at a quarterback in the 2025. I saw a mock draft that had 5 quarterbacks going in the first round. Cam Ward went to Carolina at 2. Miller Moss, the USC quarterback, went 3rd. Carson Beck ended up in Pittsburgh. No, Carson Beck ended up on the Raiders. The Steelers took a quarterback. Maybe they took Beck. I know the Steelers or Raiders picked a quarterback, and then the Browns got Garrett Nussmeier at LSU as a Deshaun Watson replacement. That's a CBS mock. Yeah, I have Cam Ward as my QB1 right now. I moved Shadur out of the Shadur played horrible against Nebraska last week, and Dylan Raiola looked like the man, and in only a second start as a freshman. So I have got Cam Ward as my number 1 quarterback at the moment, but I feel like he's a high-end starter. He's not a Pro Bowl QB. I think he's a high-end starter, but I think he can reach his ceiling by 2027. I think Beck might have the highest ceiling, but I think he's going to take a little bit longer to develop than Jared Goff. Despite having a similar ceiling than Goff, I think he's going to take a little bit longer to develop. He may not reach his ceiling until 2028 or 2029. And the question is, can you be that patient with him? The team that drafts him, can they be that patient with him moving forward? That's going to be the big question with Carson Beck. I'm not saying he's going to bust. I'm not saying he's going to succeed, but the team that drafts Carson Beck is going to have to be patient with him because I do not expect results immediately. I think it's going to be an Alex Smith situation where he picks it up by year 4 or 5 of his rookie deal. That's when he reaches his ceiling. But I think his ceiling's higher than Alex Smith. Yep. Yep. And Jane Daniels, I have got the Giants winning 24 to and the Commanders are going to win 24 to 17. Rams and Cardinals, I thought about picking the Rams to win this. I'm going to go with the Cardinals. The Rams have a ton of injuries right now. Note Boom is injured. Rob Havenstein injured. Is on IR. Kupuka Nakua is on IR. He's on the pup. Cardinals, I think the Cardinals are going to win this week because the Rams just have a ton of injuries on both sides of the ball. And I get it. Stafford played out of his mind, even with the laundry list of injuries. He did. I'll admit that. I will admit that firsthand. Um, so I like what Fisk and Jared Verse have done with this Rams defense, but it was refreshing to see Kyler Murray take responsibility in the offseason. it kind of felt like Kyler was reversed because there were plays where Marvin Harrison Jr. was open and Marvin basically constructively trying to tell Kyler to get him the ball, and Kyler basically said, "You weren't open. Go get open. You weren't open." It felt like Kyler was throwing him under the bus. I don't think that was Kyler's intention, but that's what it felt like. There were at least 2 plays in the end zone where Harrison Jr. was open, but Kyler didn't get him the ball. And Kyler's like, "Go get open." Marvin Harrison's trying to tell Murray constructively, "I'm open," and and Kyler's like, "Go get open. You're not open." It felt like Kyler threw him under the bus. I don't think that was his intention, but that's what it felt like. That's what the interpretation of what Kyler said in the press conference felt like. We're both in agreement on that, and Kyler's go ahead, bring in Ryan Tannehill. Bring in Ryan Tannehill, and we can have Kyler Murray who can play Call of Duty and medical tent. Yep, agreed. I think they'll end up picking anybody until 26 or 27, though. Even though you could argue, I still think the Cardinals have a chance to go 9-8. They're not going to make the playoffs, but they've got a chance to go 9-8. It just depends on how Kyler Murray does this week. Yeah, the Cardinals cannot get out of Kyler Murray's contract until 2026. The Cardinals cannot buy out Kyler Murray until 2026 without taking a cap hit. Broncos took a massive cap hit by buying out Russell Wilson. So, yeah. Yeah, the Broncos, they took 86 million with Russell Wilson. Cardinals if the Cardinals get rid of Kyler Murray, they would take a $19 million cap hit, which is not bad, but it's a lot more than what Russell's ABC. It's it it's more $86 million buyout. With Kyler Murray, it would be a 19 million dollar buyout for 2025, and then it really wouldn't affect the cap after that. But 19 million in dead money, you really don't want to eat that up. I think 26 and 27 are going to be better, Joey. I'm more impressed with Nico Imaleva and Dylan Raiola, the Nebraska freshman, than I am with any quarterback in the 25 draft. Wes agrees with me on that. You seem to be in agreement with me on that. You're coming around. You're not quite there yet, but you're coming around to that notion. You're you're not at the point where you're ready to say the 25 class sucks, but you're at the point where you're like, there may not be a high. Neither was I, but it finally looked like he was showing signs of maturity last year in this offseason. It looked like last year in this offseason he was showing signs of maturity, and then he does this, and we'll see what happens. Yeah, yep. I've got the Cardinals finishing 9-8. If they go 9-8 like I'm projecting, he will get one more year. He will get one more year in 25. And then if he sucks next year, the Cardinals can get out of his contract without having to pay any cap money. They'd save cap money. Yep. I've got the Cardinals winning 31-16. It is. Split decision game. Kerm, Wes, and Ban will agree with me on the Cardinals. Tracy Ord and Joey like the Rams. So that's a split decision game. Cardinals, Steelers, Broncos. I believe Joey was the only individual who took the Broncos. Everyone else took the Steelers. I think the Steelers have two quarterbacks with higher ceilings than Bo Nix. Potential. I mean, more Wilson's declined the last few years. You took the Broncos. You took the Broncos over Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's defense is damn good, though. Watt, I just don't think the Broncos have an answer for that. And their only good receiver is Sutton. If the Broncos had a better number two receiver over Josh Reynolds, I could see them winning this game. I don't think they have that. And to be fair to Bo Nix, he did get a rushing touchdown late in the game that gave him some confidence. Still doesn't have a passing touchdown. None of the rookie quarterbacks have a passing touchdown entering week 2. So, well, it's interesting because I've got the Buccaneers losing to Denver. I've got Denver getting their first win in week 3 against Tampa right now. So, just I know. Go ahead. But I think Denver might beat the Buccaneers in week 3 in Tampa. Baker Mayfield. I think Bo Nix's first win is going to come against Baker Mayfield. I could be wrong on that, but that's kind of what the vibe getting. I think Sertan can shut down Pickens. But can Riley Moss stop Van Jefferson? Can Jaquan McMillan stop whoever the Steelers play at slot, whether it's Roman Wilson or Calvin Austin III? That's my big question. You've got Levi Wallace, the former Steeler corner, at the dime corner, the number 4 corner, and you got Abrams Drame. I do like Denver's depth. Damari Mathis is on IR right now. Damari healthy. Damari Mathis is IR, so I like Pittsburgh for that reason. Last year they had Johnson. Deontay Johnson was a good number 2 receiver. Pickens and Johnson were good last year, but they don't really. Yeah, it's hard to judge Pittsburgh. They could win this. Justin Fields is going to get the start. I think if Russell Wilson was playing Russell Wilson revenge game, but we're not getting that. Justin Fields is going to get the There we go. I can hear you. No, that noise that you heard, that's TalkShoe, muting me. That if you hear that noise, it means TalkShoe muted me. I'm not pushing the mute button. Okay. So, and Justin Fields, if you were Broncos last year, he played Russell Wilson. Justin Fields outplayed Russell Wilson in that game last year between the Broncos and Bears. But the Bears ended up blowing a 28-14 lead to Denver in the fourth quarter. I think Fields is going to learn from that, and the Steelers are going to find a way to win this. My older brother is a Steeler fan. He was praising Najee Harris and Justin Fields for their play, even though the only player that I thought warranted player of the game was Chris Bos. Yeah, Boswell made 6 field goals, and he punted. He came in for the injured punter. Yeah, Boswell had 6 field goals, and he came in for the injured punter. And had his first career NFL punt. So I went with Boswell as player of the game, and South Carolina with a touchdown on their opening drive against LSU. Yep. I've got Pittsburgh winning this game 23-17, but I mean it could go either way. I think Fields wants to show he can beat Denver after losing to them last year. You were the only person that took the Broncos. Bengals Chiefs. Okay, I saw a really cool video at the I was what I accidentally turned on Paramount Plus on Wednesday. They were airing the MTV Music Video Award. I saw Cool Music Gladiator 2, Jefferson and Travis Kelsey in a Roman Coliseum. And Travis Kelsey was wrestling a tiger. Just when I think Kelsey may have just won up Gronkowski in terms of badassery. Travis Kelsey tiger at a museum. I'm strong, but I think that I Gronk. But yes, I can't believe I'm mentioning Travis Kelsey wrestling a tiger on the podcast. Yeah, And they were using this as a promo for Gladiator 2. The Gladiator 2 with Russell Crowe is coming out this Christmas. So they were using the Josh Allen, Justin Jefferson, Travis Kelsey in a Gladiator Roman Coliseum theme to promote Gladiator 2. And they had Travis Kelsey fighting a tiger. Uh, I'm pretty sure none of them are going to be an extra, but I think all of them are qualified to be extras. I'll say that. I think all 3 of those guys are qualified to be extras in Gladiator 2, from what I saw. Yeah, Dylan Stewart. I am big. I am Goliath. I am here. Where is David? Yeah. Okay, so Dylan Allen, the freshman edge rusher on South Carolina, won a hurry against Will Campbell on first down, and then Will Campbell basically power bombed him like Hulk Hogan and knocked him on his down. Exactly what you expect from Will. Taylor Rittenley said all Xavier Worthy can do anything else. I think estimating he does. Chiefs look against. I mean, helps the music look decent. Um, happens. I do 28-20. Everybody else took the Chiefs. Alex Kemp is officiating game. The Chiefs are 5-0 in games officiated by Alex and penalized fewer times. All don't. So I think it would be a pretty surprise if the Chiefs that they needed. But I'm going 28. And now we have our two I agree. It's a good rant. I mean, I agree. I've got the Chiefs beating the Bengals 28-20. Bantle has the Bengals winning, but Travis Kelsey kicked the Tigers' ass, and I just don't think the Bengals have any rebuttal to that without T. Higgins this week. Travis Kelsey. So I don't think the Bengals have a rebuttal to that matches that in terms of epicness. They don't. So I've got the Chiefs winning. Joey took the Chiefs as well. Cam Taylor Britt basically said that Cam Taylor Britt basically said that Xavier Worthy's all speed. I think that's going to motivate Worthy. I think the Chiefs are going to have a big day, and I like the Chiefs 28-20 over the Bengals. Bantle is taking the Bengals. Everyone else has the Chiefs. Texans, Bears. Um, I like the Texans. Texans are a lock. I'm going 30-17. I think Caleb Williams has a touchdown and an interception in this game. I get Caleb gets his first passing touchdown, but he also gets his first interception. And I've got the Texans by 13 for his 6.5. Threw a pick on third down. Everybody's comparing him to the pick as a result. But I've got the Texans beating the Bears 30-17, Joey. Texans just have too much talent. It's not a knock on the Bears. The Texans have too much talent. I've got the Texans in my survivor pool this week. I had the Saints last week. I wisely did not pick the Bengals in survivor pool like most of the country. I've got the Texans. See, if Joey had picked the Ravens, Ravens would be my survivor pick. He didn't pick the Ravens, so that means I'm taking the Texans and saving the Ravens for later in the season when they have a more favorable home matchup. But the Texans are my survivor pick. Last year, I took the Bengals to beat the Titans on the road, and that's how I got eliminated in Survivor after week 3. But I've got the Texans as my survivor pick this week. So Texans 30, Bears 17. It's a home game for the Texans against a rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams. I like the Texans here. And then the final game is Falcons Eagles. And, Falcons head to Philadelphia. We've had 25 people in the chat room. I appreciate you guys. You are amazing. Falcons, Eagles. I've got the Eagles winning by a touchdown 35-28. I do think the Falcons score some touchdowns and keep this relatively close. Remember, Joey, Kirk Cousins' last 2 games at Lincoln Financial shootouts for the Eagles ultimately end up prevailing. I think that is the case once again, but the Eagles win by a touchdown once again. So I have the Eagles winning 35-28. So there's some exciting college football games on today. I don't think it's as exciting a week as previous weeks. I'm watching LSU South Carolina right now. I'm watching South Carolina LSU right now. I know that Boston College is going to play Missouri at 12:45. I think those are the 2 ranked teams. If you're not into football, you can watch The Longest Yard and Talladega Nights on Comedy Central. If you're not into college football, you can rewatch those if you have that. But yeah, SEC Network is airing the Boston College Missouri game, number 24 versus number 6. So that is going to be on. Memphis plays Florida State on ESPN. So there's a bunch of good college football games on. But yeah, South Carolina is winning this game right now with Lenora Sellers at quarterback. But Sellers just threw a pick. I'm excited to see if Will Campbell power bombs another edge rusher before this game's over. Does it? And South Carolina intercepts Garrett Nussmeier. But there is a flag down on the play. One ref is signaling touchdown, but there is a flag down. And I don't know if this is coming back or not. But yeah, there's a lot of good college football. This LSU South Carolina game that I'm describing to Joey is currently on ABC. You're going to get Alabama, Wisconsin on Fox today as well. Oh, face. Is that horse? Is that a face mask or a horse collar penalty? Freaking horse collar penalty by South Carolina. Edge rusher who got by Emory Jones ends up costing South Carolina pick 6. Freaking horse collar. Grab the quarterback's shoulder pad and freaking horse collar penalty. I'm sure that pisses you off as a coach that a horse collar penalty costs you a pick 6. I am sure you'd be livid about that if you were still coaching. I mean, that is just not. But yeah, we've covered the NFL games. Next rankings. And we will also have the Metropolitan Division preview for the NHL. But we'll have the NHL and NFL predictions in a separate YouTube video. So so if you just want to watch the quarterback rankings, that will be in one video, one live stream, and the other stuff will be in the other live stream. But yeah. That horse collar penalty ends up costing South Carolina a 14-0 lead. See, undisciplined play like that is why the Gamecocks haven't made an SEC title since Spurrier was there in 2011. And this is probably their best team since then, but I got to see that leap from South Carolina. I don't quite see it yet. I do like their head coach, but I don't quite see the leap quite yet from Shane Beamer's squad. I do like Shane Beamer, but I don't think he's quite ready to take the leap because remember, well, they're not doing East and West in the SEC anymore. So as long as South Carolina's top 2 in the conference, they'll get a shot at the SEC title. But what a stop by number 0 on South Carolina, Williams. Good stop. Yeah, I'm going to watch. The interior is just letting the pocket collapse. I mean, Emory Jones and Will Campbell are doing their jobs, but the interior for LSU is just getting their ass kicked by South Carolina's defensive line. So I think it's going to be interesting to see if this holds up because another loss for LSU pretty much hurts their playoff chances. They are. I'm not denying that. Emory Jones did give up a quarterback hurry to South Carolina. Um, I think Will Campbell is the truth as a first round prospect, number 1 player on my board. LSU lost their center to the 2024 NFL draft, Charles Turner III. He was in the NFL draft. He's gone. So they have a sophomore starting at center, and the guards have been terrible today. They do have 2 senior guards, but they've both been terrible today. against South Carolina's interior defensive line. So I'm not saying they can't turn it around. Very early in the game. No, the guards have been terrible today. LSU's guards have been terrible today against South Carolina. I mean, Campbell and Jones are still just as good as the media advertises them to be, but Jones gave up a hurry. Um, the guards looked outmatched, and the pocket collapsed. The opening between the right guard and right tackle opened. South Carolina attacked that gap and sacked Nussmeier on third down. So I'm not sure if that's on the right guard or the right gap, right tackle, leaving that gap open. Actually, that's on the center. The center left a gap open between the left guard, and that, yeah, we're no, I think we're in complete agreement on that. We're in complete agreement on that one. So, Coach Prime, Nick Saban, and the Affleck Duck are fishing. And the Affleck Duck catches a fish, yells Affleck, and a, the Affleck Duck caught the biggest fish, and Dion got a guppy. Coach Prime got a guppy, and they cooked the guppy, and the Affleck Duck is showing off the big fish he caught. And they cooked the guppy. Yeah, Affleck. Don't blame me. Blame Affleck. They came up with that commercial. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. Because I think by the end of the first quarter, we're probably going to sign off. If we don't sign off soon, we'll probably sign off by the end of the first quarter at the latest. But yeah, y- we've already gone through all the NFL games and all the NHL predictions. Only reason I'm staying on the air is because I want to give our audience a brief overview of what I'm seeing in South Carolina LSU. I'm not going to reveal the entire game, but a brief overview. And Chick-fil-A is promoting a mac and cheese chicken sandwich. I mean, it's like Chick-fil-A. They're in a commercial. Chick-fil-A has good chicken, Joey. They do. They're in a commercial. We're in a commercial, Joey. They're in it. The ESPN is taking ABC's taking a long ass time with these commercials. And now we get a Lamar Jackson Gatorade. We get Miles Garrett in the Gatorade commercial. The Gatorade commercial. Hutchinson. Shadur. ABC throwing it for Golden Bachelor, and now we're back. But yeah, South Carolina, they made a defensive stop. There's 5 minutes and 13 seconds left in the first quarter. And South Carolina's front seven attacking that gap. And you know, that pick six was negated due to a penalty by South Carolina. But yeah, Lenoris Sellers, he's got to be able to put the Gamecocks up on the board by double digit scores. Because if LSU's defense holds, the Tigers are going to get back in this ball game. I mean, South Carolina's defense has been playing well enough to keep LSU off the scoreboard, but the offense has to put the game away when they have the opportunity. If you're South Carolina, because if you don't put that game away when you got the opportunity, then you know LSU's going to come back. They lost three defensive tackles in the 2024 NFL draft, and they still have a good interior. I've got Harold Perkins in the second round, but some of Harold Perkins in the top five. It's ridiculous how high he is on some boards. I think it's due to the speed, the athletic traits. Yeah, I feel like the interior and the safeties get downplayed, and the linebackers, the quality of their play gets downplayed to a degree now because everybody looks at the pass first positions: quarterbacks, tackles, receivers, corners, edge rushers. So those other positions, they're still important, but they get downplayed to a degree. But yeah, Nick Harbor with a really good reception. And now ESPN's trying to be like NHL Network with the analytics 99 speed, 99 acceleration. ESPN, you're football, you're not Madden. We go into a lot of details whenever we do draft rankings each week from weeks 3 to 18. We try to go into as much detail as possible on each position. Then we do like a brief review of everything once the players declare for the draft. At least I try to. Yeah, I mean, I've got the rankings for next week up on the news ticker, but what do you mean? What more can we do? What more do you think we can do to enhance what we do? Like Emmerich and Marty McFly or Rick and Morty. Nice. Okay, that sounds like it could be fun. I'm not sure what to think of Brian Kelly doing hand gestures. It looks like he's doing the robot. I enjoy Brian Kelly as a coach, but you need to cut that out. When you motion your arms, it looks like you're doing the robot. You shouldn't be doing the robot when you're trailing South Carolina 7-0. It's not a good look, Brian Kelly. It's not a good look. If, if you were winning and you just scored a touchdown, it'd be a different story. But you know, Lenora Sellers scrambles for a first down. I like Sellers as a runner, but he really hasn't wowed me as a passer. And a defensive penalty on LSU gives South Carolina good field position. Yep. There's this one YouTuber that simulates college football careers on NCAA 25, and one of the careers he's going to simulate soon is Al Bundy's college career. That's going to be great. Yeah, there's he's already simulated the careers for Willie Beeman. He simulated the career for Bobby Boucher. He simulated the career for Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump won a championship at Alabama, and he had like 3,800 rushing yards and 43 rushing touchdowns at Army when he enrolled in the Army with the Army Black Knights. He almost got Army to a national championship over Alabama. That's insane. Forrest Gump almost single-handedly did that in NCAA in the simulation. Willie Beeman led the Houston Cougars to a 12-team playoff. But yeah, what Forrest did in that simulation was historically good. But yeah, it's nuts. Bobby Boucher got Louisiana to the 12-team playoff. Then he won, and he got LSU to the playoff after transferring to LSU with Coach Clyde, and they had Red Boyette on Georgia. It's pretty bad stuff. But the humor, the animation, it's funny. But yeah, Georgia plays Kentucky tonight. That's not going to be an exciting game. I think ABC knows that. That's why they're having Kirk and Chris Fowler call South Carolina LSU because they know this is probably the most exciting of a not very exciting week 3. And Cincinnati and Miami, Ohio are tied now. For Carson Beck and for Keon for Kentucky Dion Walker, Kentucky's edge for Kentucky's in got we've also got a corner Hairston. I have a second round grade on him. He's he did not look good against South Carolina. He didn't look horrible, but he didn't look like a first round player. South Carolina trounced Kentucky 31-14 last week. Walker had some moments in that game, but Hairston did not look like a first round player in that game. He didn't look like a third round player. I still have him in round 2, but that's one of the things. And final play of the first quarter, South Carolina's offensive right tackle knocking some LSU guys on their ass. It's going to be a first down for the Gamecocks. And that'll wrap it up for the first quarter. You can catch the rest of the game of LSU South Carolina on ABC. You can catch Georgia Kentucky in Lexington tonight at 7:30 on ABC. You can catch Alabama Wisconsin at 3:30 on Fox. And Missouri Boston College is over on the SEC network. So guys, thank you so much for joining. That's Joseph Potter. Next Saturday with NHL Metropolitan Division and our very first quarterback rankings for the 2024 NFL Draft. See you then. So long.